Hi YouTube, how are you guys doing? My name is Aziz and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm an AI automation engineer and instructor, and today we are going to cover a really cool topic and something that a lot of us are struggling with, which is to take care of content creation on our blogs or on social media channels, right? And this is something that we want to automate today. And the way this works is that we are going to have a dashboard like this. We are going to use Airtable, and I'm going to get to this in a second. And we have a form, which I'm going to show you in a minute. Then we basically have a backend. So we are using n8n for this again, obviously. And then this will be the flow that we're going to build together right now. We are not going to go into every little detail of every node, but this will basically be the end result of this. What we're also going to use is some kind of input URL about an article that gave us inspiration. This is optional. We don't have to do this. And then we are also using the assistance option or the assistance feature of OpenAI, which will help us to streamline the whole process a lot better. So the way this works is like this. So we have this dashboard right here, and it's quite extensive, and this is where all the content lives, which we have published in the past, right? And the only thing that we want or need to do is to click on this button right here and to say add content. And when we do this, then you can see that we basically have a very simple form, and they are only two required fields, right? So we can choose the platform where we want to post on, or for which platform we want to create the content on. And then we have an idea input field, which is obligatory, which we have to fill out. And then we can add a URL, just as I mentioned, something like this, an article that gave us inspiration. We can also add keywords, which will be considered while writing the content, especially from the blog post. These will be considered. And then we have a status field and a schedule date, and also the option to add an image. However, as I've mentioned, the only thing that we need to have for this project is to have the platform and the idea, and then it will give us basically the complete content of each and every platform which we chose, right? So this is something that I've done in the past. So I've just put in this idea, I gave it a URL, and then it output the whole blog post, the whole title, the text, which is quite long, which is on purpose because we wanted to create something that's like 1,000 words plus. And then we have the Facebook post, Instagram, LinkedIn, and everything else. And then we also have an image, and I'm going to get into this topic right away, and I'm going to move myself out of the way really quickly so that you can see the whole thing again. So we have all this content, and we have an image right here, right? So how does this work? So at the end of the day, the only thing that we want to do is to click on add content. I have prepared an idea, and I am just going to paste this. So how trying out something new can help you build your confidence, right? And the URL I'm going to use is this one. This is just an article that I found. I'm going to put this in, and then I'm going to hit create. And now, as you can see there, we have a new entry right at the bottom. When I open this, then you can see that all the content is still empty, right? And the only thing that I now need to do is to click on this button right here, which is to create the actual content, which in itself will trigger this whole flow, right? And this is basically it. And after this, I have all the content that I need. And then obviously, as an extension to this flow, you can automatically publish this on all the platforms that you want to publish on, right? And how does this work in the backend? Now, we are going to jump right into n8n, and we basically have four phases, right? So we are getting the input, then we are checking for a URL, and if there is actually a given URL which we need to check on, i.e. we need to get the content of that specific article, then we are generating the whole content, and we are using AI assistants for this from OpenAI. You don't have to do it this way, but this is just one of the many ways how you can do this by using OpenAI's native feature. And then we're basically already creating this and then putting this into Airtable again and updating the content itself. Now, this is not that complex, actually. It's not that complicated process, but it's definitely helpful because obviously this will save you a lot of time. And the only thing that you need to literally do is to fill out this form just with an idea, and you don't even have to have the URL, and then the whole content will be generated, and it will also, and we're going to get to this in a second, adhere to your brand guide, to your tone of voice, to your tonality, and everything else that's necessary to have a really high quality post, right? And so let's build this together really quickly. All right, now we have our four phases. We have an empty canvas basically, and the first thing is to get the actual input, right? And I'm going to paste this in what we have prepared before, and now you can see that we have a webhook as the first node, right? This will be the trigger node. And if we jump into Airtable again, then you can see that this button, this create content button, is the button that will be responsible for sending this data that we have added in the form right into our n8n flow, and it will be able to catch that information, right? Then the next step is to search for the records. When I open this, then you can see that we have have another filter in our formula, which will basically look for all the entries, all the records which have the status of awaiting process, and this will make sure that when we change the status later on to something like approved or published, that we are not going to pull in the same records and the same entries as we already had before. Now, this is already the second part. Then we are going to update the status so that we will have a live view basically, and that we know that when we're changing this, that we have an entry which is called in progress, and then we can know that while this is in progress, the backend of n8n, or the whole process within n8n, is running, and that we don't need to do anything else. All right, now as for the next stage, we are making an if node. So I'm pasting this in. And as you can see, I'm going to connect this one as well. We are only checking if we, in that input search record field, have an input field which is called input URL, right? So we're basically checking if there is actually an URL from this field, right? And if there's none, then we are taking the false path and we are going to continue without checking for the actual article. But if there is, and you can see this within the if node, this is the true path, then I'm taking the input URL, I'm making an HTTP request. So when I open this, and you can see this is just a simple GET request to that specific site, to that specific URL. And then you can already see that the content we are getting out of this will be the complete HTML file, right? And when I open this, then the whole HTML, and we're going to see if and how this works, then we are extracting basically anything within the body, i.e. within the whole HTML structure. We're just going to take the body because this is where the actual article lives and we don't need anything around this. And then we are at the next stage cleaning all of this up by summarizing the whole text and then only having to digest this into the next agent, which will be responsible for the actual content creation if we by just passing on the summarization of the article and not the whole document, the whole HTML page, right? Because if we are making a request like this, then you can already see that there's a lot of information that we don't need, like the sidebar, in the header, in the footer, and everything else, all the buttons we don't need. We just want the actual content, right? And this is what this part does. Now, next part is to generate the content, and we have a different actor or a different assistant and a different agent for each platform. Reason being is that obviously if you imagine that there are different experts, if you will, for different kinds of platforms, right? So you might be an expert in blog posting and considering SEO, considering everything else to basically match the tone of voice of the creator, but you might not be able to be that good or that talented in writing effective Facebook or LinkedIn posts, right? And this is the reason why we are using the assistants from OpenAI. Now, as I've mentioned, you don't have to do this. If you're new to assistants, you can take a look at this. This is a native feature of OpenAI. However, there's a quite convenient feature, which is that you are able to give them all the information in regards to your own personal brand guide and tone of voice by passing them the files, something like a Google Doc or a PDF, that it is able to retrieve and then consider this while writing, And as you can see, we have different kinds of writers. So we have an Instagram post writer, we have an X post writer, and all of these are experts in their specific field, right? And this is what we are connecting right now in the next part. So I'm throwing all of this into this box. I'm going to connect this, and then I am using a switch node. And the switch node will basically just look if we have a blog or if we have a Facebook or we have an Instagram entry, i.e. if you remember, we have this field right here, which was required, and it will basically check if this box has been activated by the user or not. And if that's the case, then it's going to take the according path to pass this information on to this specific assistant, right? Now, the next feature, the next type of node that we're using is a message assistant or message in assistant. And if we open up this feature in n8n itself, then you can see that this is a native feature of OpenAI, as I've already mentioned. And when I look for message, then you can see I can message a model or I can message an assistant. And when I open this, then you can see that I have my credentials already activated right here. I have the resource, which is an assistant, and I want to message that assistant. And within this next field of assistants, when I open this, then you can see that I'm basically given the same list that I have right here within my assistants panel, right? And this are the agents or the assistants that I'm able to use. And obviously within our assistants, when I open this, then you can see that there are a couple of features, and obviously, especially the system instruction, which is the prompt, right? Then I could choose a specific model that I think would be the best for this specific task. And then, as I've already mentioned, I can add a file search, so I can add a couple of files into this, and then it is able to retrieve the information from those files. And that's basically already it for the assistants node. So I'm going to delete this. And for instance, when I open the blog assistant, then you can see it's basically the same settings. I chose the blog post outline assistant, and the reason why I chose the outline assistant, and we had this in a previous video, I've explained this, because this will basically enable us to create really long, high quality texts, right? And I'm going to get to this in a second. Now, the next thing, in addition to the system prompt that we have added into the assistant itself, is that we are able to also add a user prompt, which will basically be given to the assistant in addition to what we already have in the system instructions. Then I'm just telling it to that this is the input, and then I have an idea, and then the summary of the article provided, and this is exactly what we got out of the previous notes, right? And obviously all of this is red right now, so it doesn't have any content, but we are going to test this in a second. And the next part on this very path, and you can see that all of the others are basically always the same. This is the Facebook writer, then we have the Instagram writer, and so on and so forth. The only reason we are doing it this way in the blog post writer is that we want to split out the outline that we have just created by the blog post outline assistant, is that if we pass on one chapter to the next agent or the next assistant, which is the actual blog post paragraph writer, then we can be sure that he focuses really specifically on writing that specific chapter without getting distracted and getting too much information and trying to do everything at once rather than one by one. And this is the reason why we using this split out node. And then we have, as I've mentioned, the paragraph writer, and this is the same logic. So we have the connection to our OpenAI resource, and the operation is message assistant. Now we have chosen the SMS blog post paragraph writer. Then we have the prompt, and this is also a simple prompt, and we are basically passing on the same information, especially if we take a look at the outline right here, what the outline assistant just created, right? And this will give us the option or the quality that we want. We've added a simple memory, so we can be sure that the context will not be lost, right? So that the, for instance, third chapter will still be in the context of chapter 1 and 2, right? So that the assistant still remembers and still knows what we wrote before, and that it's a cohesive document at the end of the day, or a cohesive article. Then we're basically aggregating everything else of these chapters into one complete post, and then we already have the last phase. And this is where we're using a merge node, so we can basically get all the information we have created or we have being created by the different kinds of assistant into one complete informational doc or informational path, and then we are updating everything in the record within Airtable, right? And then we're basically uploading everything again and updating what they have created. So we are using an ID to match this. We are using a post title, or we have been created a post title. Then we have the actual text, which is the one that the blog post paragraph writer generated, and then we have Facebook and Instagram and all the platforms that you want, right? And this is already it in a nutshell. So I went through this a little faster because it can get quite complex, and you might already have a couple of ideas how you can already extend this, right? For instance, what if you wanted to have an image? And as you saw, we already have this in these past articles, right? In these past entries. And if you want to learn how you can do this, then first of all, I'm asking you to support this channel and myself by clicking the subscribe button and the like button. Share this, and obviously comment if there is something that you would like to see on this channel in regards to the topics. And then also I am creating Script AI School, where you are able to create everything imaginable basically in regards to automations, in regards to AI and what have you. So as you can see, we are going to cover n8n basics. You will have access to AI agents and all the assets, by the way, which I'm happy to share on this platform. And we will get into RAG, we will get into scraping, Airtable, and how you can create dashboards like these, right? And this is just a glimpse into the very many possibilities that Airtable has and gives you. And we will get into prompting. You will learn prompt engineering and everything else that's really necessary to get into the next level of AI and automations. So you can start out as a really beginner, never having heard of n8n or an automation platform, but at the end of the day, we and I will continue to put in a lot of content to make you an expert in these things, so that you are able to streamline and automate all the processes that you are dealing with in your daily life. Whether you are working in operations, you know, as an operator of some kind, as an operations manager, as an employee in a company, or you are responsible for certain kinds of processes, or if you are self-employed and this is your own agency and you are trying to build something, and obviously also if you want to build these types of things and you want to sell them. So, and then as the last part, we are going to test if this really works. I'm going to connect all of this together and we will see what this does. And now I have connected everything else back together, as you can see, and we are going to jump back into Airtable again, and I'm going to open up the last entry that we created together before. And now if you take a look at the information we have here, the only thing that I added was the user ID and the input URL, and I chose which platform I want to have. So for which platform I want to create content. And then after this, the only thing left for me is to click on create content, and this will start the flow. Now, when I'm jumping back into n8n, and now I'm jumping into the executions tab, as you can see here, and now you can see that it is running, and we will wait until it's finished and check out the results. All right, and we are done with this. And as you can see, we do have all the green check marks. So it did go through everything, and we can also see that it shows every path because I selected all platforms that I want to post on, right? And I've also updated it has also updated the Airtable entry, and we're going to take a look at this. And as you can see, this was the last entry that we added, and it changed the status to approved. And I'm going to open this up. And we do have a title right now. And remember, this was the topic, right? We chose, so how trying something new can help you succeed in business and in life. And the idea was to how trying out something new can help you build your confidence. And this is the title that it gave us. And we have all the chosen platforms, and we have the blog post title. We have the actual text, which is quite extensive, which is nice. We do have Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and also X. Now, some of these have a couple of formatting problems that we would need to take care of, but that's a minor problem. But as you can see, we have the content for all of our platforms, right? And the next extension of this process would just be to take this content and then publish it whenever we want. And we can make a regular thing out of this, right? And we, from our part, from a manual part, we would just have to add content, and we can build a list of this, and you can basically throw in as many ideas as you like. And then at a certain time, the whole automation will run, and then it will take the content and create and publish all of this onto the specific platform. And this will save you a lot of time, and it will build your brand and build the trust in your personal brand or in your company brand. All right, guys. Now, I hope this was helpful. Thanks a lot for your attention, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.